Hello my beautiful co-creators, Lilu here on the Juicy Living Tour, and today we're in Oakland in California with delicious Christine.
Hi, hello everybody, so good to be here.
Get ready for a lot of energy.
Oh my God, it's time for love.
It's time for love and self-love, because Christine says that actually self-love is like a magic pill, isn't it? For everything in life.
It is a magic pill. I know we're always looking for this outside magic pill, but the pill that we're looking for is really in here.
So you wrote Choose Me Before We.
I did.
New World Library, so
I
that's
did.
exciting.
It is. It's if you ever want to know anything about me, all you have to do is read this book, because everything that's ever happened to me in my life is in that book. I decided to share my story with other women and men so that they could find the love that they wanted in their lives. Because I was told to look for it in all the wrong places, like that song, that awful country song, right? Looking for love in all the wrong places. And then I realized that the love I was looking for out there was the love I was missing in here.
So how did you discover that? What is your own story?
It's like, you know, like a lot of people who write books and our speakers and our thought leaders, is that we have some painful thing that happens to us. And that's what happened to me. I wasn't listening to my intuition, which kept poking me and trying to get my attention. And I was in a relationship, and I was doing what I was supposed to be doing. I was a very successful marketing executive, and I was climbing up the corporate ladder, and I was getting my MBA, and I had the big house and the big car. So the next thing to get was the big husband. And my fiance at the time, and I was about 30 at the time, he was big. So he was 6'4" and 225 pounds. So that was the next step. And I was going along the plan. And then there was this moment where he decided to change the plan. And that was outside of my mother's house on the day of our engagement party, right before we were getting ready to walk in. He stopped the car and looked at me and said, "Christine, I don't love you. Christine, I don't want to marry you. And Christine, I've been cheating on you for the last 6 months." And then it's so funny, you know, when I tell that story, it's like I'm back in that car, and I'm like, whoa. And then there's like all this like, what do you do when that happens? And I was very, you know, successful, independent, empowered woman. You would think I would like punched his lights out and been like, "You're a jerk, I'm out of here, see you later." But I didn't. I looked at him and I said, "You know, that's nice, but we have a party to go to. We'll fix this later." And then went to the party. And I looked great because I put the face on, you know? And if you had seen the pictures, you would never know that anything was wrong, other than he's not in any of the pictures, because, you know, obviously he was, you know, not wanting to be there. But I just thought, you know, I'll fix it, because I had been for 15 years putting masking tape and bubble gum to fix this relationship. And the thought of it ending was so terrifying, I think, to me, that I was just in total denial, and went into a 2-week period, which was probably the lowest period of my life, where I begged this man to take me back. So here I am, a marketing executive, making 6 figures at the top business school in America, and I am begging a man to take me back so hard that I couldn't get to work with mascara on, because I'd cry it all off before I ever got to the office. And about 2 weeks in, very good girlfriends are the best during times like this, right? So I'm talking in a conference room somewhere at work, hyperventilating, crying about this man, and she's like, "Christine, I love you, but I actually have to get my job done, and so you can't keep calling me, you know, every day crying on the phone. You have to go see somebody." So I thought she would say, "Oh, like you need to go get therapy." No. She said, "You need to go see my astrologist." And I was living in Chicago at the time, and I'm like, what? Like, what is that? But I'm like, okay, I'm desperate, I'll do anything. So I go see this woman named Carol, who's an astrologist, and she reads my chart, and she reads my ex-person's charts, and she looks at them, and then she looks at me, and she said, "Honey, you can keep following this guy around for the next 40 years, and he will keep breaking your heart, or you can leave, and your life will open up into places you could never imagine."
So how did that land?
That's all I needed, was the permission from one person to tell me what I already knew inside. I knew he was holding me back. I knew that relationship was holding me back. I knew I was almost marrying the person that I didn't want to marry. I almost created a life I didn't want to live. I would have ended up living in the Midwest selling cheese. Like, that's what would have been my life, you know? And now I live in California in this great house. I write books. I talk to girls and women around the world. I'm married to my soul partner. I have a soul family. I have so much love in my life that sometimes I feel like the Rockefeller of love. And that never would have been possible had I not just listened to what she said. And in that moment, I went home, packed my bags, moved in with my girlfriend. I don't think she knew that was going to happen when she sent me to the astrologist. And she gave me half a bed and half a closet. And that first night, I'm laying in bed, so I'm laying in bed next to Catherine, and Catherine's a new bride. So she's literally reading a bridal magazine, right? And I'm devastated. I'm laying in bed, I'm looking up at the ceiling. And you know that feeling when you feel like someone's just like ripped your heart out? So in the big hole, I had always thought that was him missing. But in that moment, I'm laying there looking at them, my life is over, my life is over, my life is over, ow, ow, ow. And this voice comes into my head and says, psst, that's not him missing, that's you missing. And I was like, oh, damn, that's right, that's right. And so she went on to talk. It was my intuition. I had not been listening to her for so long, she couldn't quite shut up. So she kept talking, and she goes, and Christine, you have a lot of self-esteem, you're super confident, but you don't love yourself. And you don't even know what that is.
So where did you start it from?
Well, I started from making a vow to myself that night in the bed, which actually are the vows that are in my book, Choosing Me Before We, and I took 2 vows that night. First vow was, I will fall in love with myself. I don't know what it meant. My girlfriends didn't know what it meant either, but I was gonna do that, and that became my self-love journey over 10 years ago. And then secondly, I made another vow to myself, which was I will never settle for less than my heart and soul desire. And I didn't really know what my heart and soul desired because I had been living based on my ideal of what I was supposed to live into. And so that became a whole journey into, well, what do you desire, heart? What do you desire, soul?
So you started journaling too, I guess? Or
well, I actually,
I
reached out for help. So I really think when these kind of things happen in our lives and anywhere in our lives, we need to reach out for help. And so I actually did start therapy. I had 3 therapists working on me at one time, a psychotherapist, a body worker. I was like going in for it, to change all these crazy beliefs that I had in my head. Because I didn't know what I didn't know, but I knew what I was doing wasn't working. And when I was looking around at all my friends and my relatives, they were doing the same crazy things that I was doing. So I was reaching out for help to help rewire what was going on in here. So there was the therapy that kind of put me back together, because at that point I was bleeding profusely from all these emotional holes that I had stuck my ex-person in. I call it the Swiss cheese theory.
But it's interesting that you say choosing me before we, because you were actually already choosing yourself in some way, but some very imposed way, instead of co-creating with your partner, I guess. Because you arrive to the stage where you're like, oh my God, I'm trying to keep this guy, I'm trying to make this life of my dream. So you're already in there for yourself instead of co-creating, would you say?
Well, other than it was about getting the love from him. So, there were times where we would have conversations with him and I would say, I really need a partner. I really want you to be my partner. And he would say to me, well, Christine, I can't be that person. And I'd be like, oh no, I'll fix you. It'll be okay. Like, I'll make you if I love you more, right? If I change, then you'll become this partner that I want. And the truth is that he was never going to be that partner. There's no way. When we were in a relationship together with my ex-person, I wanted him to be this partner, right? And so I would come to him and say, I want you to be this partner. You're going to be this partner for me. And he would look at me and he would say, oh, no, I don't think I can be that partner. But I couldn't hear that, I'm like, oh, no, I'll fix you. I'll love you more. I will change myself, because I was so afraid of losing his love. And that's what choosing me before we really means. It's about choosing the love for yourself before trying to choose the love from somebody else. That's what choosing me before we means. It's not choosing me instead of we, because when you are in a partnership with somebody, of course, there's a give and there's a take and there's a commitment and there's a partnership. But before you fill yourself up with your own love, what you will do, and what I did, is you'll look for that person to stuff in all those holes. So I had, and many people, we all do, here's my theory. My theory is that you're born in love with yourself. All of us are born in love with ourselves. This is not my theory. This is a spiritual theory that I've adopted. I'm like, oh, that makes so much sense. So you're born in love with yourself, right? And then sometime, and we can all go back to even like an instance or maybe a slower erosion process where that love gets cracked. Something happens to us, right? And so all of a sudden we're like, the world is not a safe place, and then what happens is that creates a fissure where the love stealers can come in. And start stealing away that self-love and that sense of love and connection. So maybe it's a bully, it's a bad parent, it's like whatever our stories are. And there comes a moment in our lives, if we're fortunate enough to wake up, like I did, although it was really painful. I don't ever want anyone to have to wake up that painfully. It doesn't have to be that way. But you wake up and then the journey is back to love. So you have to go back in and love those holes versus stuffing them into it. So like the reason why I always thought he was missing whenever we would break up, because I would feel an emptiness inside, is because I didn't love myself. And it were my own wounds, my father dying when I was 14, my best friend died when she was 15. You know, I had mean girls locking me in bathrooms. I mean, we all have our stories, but I had to go back in and love me. And because I did that, then I was able to attract and manifest and co-create a partnership with my soul partner, Noah, who I've been married to for the last 5 years.
So you said Mr. Right, I read, but are you talking of him as Mr. Right, or it was Mr. Right before because you were trying to make him right?
Well, well, the whole Mr. Right thing is like, I'm not into the Mr. Right thing, because I think it just like, you know, it makes me feel like there's like this little automatron that we have to create, you know? You will be Mr. Right if you fit into these 10 different categories, which, you know, if you think about it, how would you like someone to feel that way about you? You wouldn't want that, right? I think it's really about connecting in when you're looking for if we're looking for a partner, and here's the other thing, we're not always looking for a partner. Sometimes you just want to date. Sometimes you just want to hang out and have a companion. Sometimes, and it's okay, you want to just, you know, have a little fling. And sometimes we do want a partner. And so it's really important, and this is where if you don't know yourself, you don't know what you want. To start with, the first question is, you know, what do I want from my life? And then you know what that is. And then the second question is, what kind of relationship do I want? Before you even get to the he or the she. And then, because at different stages in our lives, like when that relationship ended, I wasn't looking for a partnership. I was not actually looking for anything, and I ended up, you know, meeting Noah, but what I really wanted was to date, because I hadn't dated in so long, and I just wanted to have fun, and I didn't even know that you could do that. You know, like 3 weeks into our dating, or maybe it was about a month in to when I met Noah, I said, I'm not ready for a relationship, you know? And he said, well, who said anything about a relationship? We could just hang out and have a good time. And I'm like, you can do that? You know, it doesn't always have to be about the partnership. But when it is about the partnership, I don't think it's about finding Mr. Right. I think it's about understanding and hear in your heart and soul what the essence is of the person you're trying to call forward. I call it the core four, which is what I wrote about in here too as well.
Yeah, so how do you actually nurture yourself then inside of this partnership to always bring forth this me?
Yeah, it's really important. I think a lot of people can either get lost in partnerships, or sometimes they're not open to the love that's in the partnership. Tends to be kind of either one of those two. So first of all, it's about knowing who you are and what your dreams are. I really believe that the only reason to be in partnership with somebody is because they help you become a better person, or they help you reach your dreams. And that doesn't mean it's always easy. You know, oftentimes you really have to face like your stuff and really be like, whoa, that's really true about me. And then you gotta love that back, you know? Yeah. But if they're not lifting you up and you're not lifting yourselves up together, then why would you choose that partnership? Because this is your life, right? This is your life. You paid a great price to get into this world. This is your ticket. And at the end of the day, you're gonna be standing at the pearly gates looking back and being like, was that the life I wanted to live? And you want to be able to say yes, and I lived it well, and I lived it fully, and I lived it from love. And that's really the other piece, is that when you're in relationship, it's important to love yourself enough to trust someone else loving you. It's vulnerable.
So it takes also time to give to ourselves, and just to ourselves every day, you know, some moments, some meditation or journaling, or even some things that we like, and kind of have our own me time. Yeah,
well, here's the thing. Self-love is not something that you achieve, you know. It's like one day we're I'm done, I love myself, you know. It's a practice. It's every day. And so there's different, I call them the different gates of self-love, because self-love is kind of, if you think about it theoretically, it could feel so vast, right? But the thing with self-love is very personal. So when I started studying self-love and falling into self-love, I actually went onto the dictionary.com and I said, what does self-love define it? I'm just kind of curious. Okay, we're sitting down, this is good. This is a shocker. Self-love on dictionary.com is defined as conceit, narcissism, and vanity. I was like, you know, jaw dropper. And at some level, it didn't surprise me, because often when I go out and I talk about self-love, I get the weirdest, you know, women will be like, well, that's kind of selfish. Or I was talking yesterday to some college girls, and one came up to me, she's like, well, can you love yourself too much? And my answer was no. You know, there's narcissism.
That exists too.
But that's not about self-love. Let's be clear, narcissists do not love themselves. That's the whole point, that narcissistic behavior is because they're scared to death of letting someone really see them. They're very holy. They have a lot of emotional holes. That's narcissism. That's not self-love. Self-love is the unconditional love and respect that you have for yourself that is so deep, so solid, so unwavering, that you only invite in and allow in relationships, including the one you have with yourself, and situations that reflect that same unconditional love and respect.
So you went to dictionary.com and told them?
Well, here's the thing. Anyone out there that's listening and they know who makes these definitions, I would like to know their email address.
Time to change it.
It is totally time to change it. Every year, and the International Day of Self-Love, which is February 13th, I put a call out on my Facebook page. And I say, let's redefine self-love on dictionary.com. And please send me your definition. So I'm collecting all of them. So at some point, once I get this email address of who makes up these definitions, because I have a few that I have a bone to pick about, I'm going to spam them. Just send them all the definitions and create a exactly. Will you help me?
Yeah. Let's do it.
Let's do it. I mean, really, because think about that. Think of the message we're giving to our children.
Oh yeah, this is not.
Would you tell your daughter or your son, hey, you don't love yourself? That's selfish? No.
So on your what are you going to celebrate? And I heard that you're writing a new book too, huh?
I am.
Celebrate that on
February 13th. Yeah, February 13th. Of course, called Madly in Love with Me, and it's a book that I've been just kind of writing over the last, really 10 years. I've been asking myself the question, like, what is self-love, and how do you know if you love yourself or you don't love yourself? And then how can you do practices? And I call them self-love dares. I give people dares, and I create 40-day. I know you do 100-day practices. I create 40-day practices of self-love.
Dares, like daring to do something?
Yeah, dares, because it's a daring act to love yourself. Like, if it's really the definition is conceit, narcissism, and vanity, that's the collective consciousness. That's what people believe, right? So you're standing up against that belief system. And it's really interesting when I go and I speak to a group of women, like I was just with probably about 60 sorority girls. I went to this conference over the last weekend, and we were in the room and I was talking about not being hard on yourself and reforming your inner mean girl. It's this whole piece of self-love I work with, that crazy voice we have inside. And I was talking about why women are so hard on themselves. And the reason why we're so hard on ourselves is because we've been programmed to believe that if we're not doing, if we're not achieving, we're not enough. And that was the unintended impact of the self-esteem movement and of the feminist movement. Like, we become equal, we can do anything, it's great, and oh my God, I feel now the pressure to do everything. And self-esteem is really important. I mean, 40 years ago, people didn't talk about self-esteem. But self-esteem is also limited because it's really about the belief you can do anything. But that's not self-love. That's why you find smart women in bad relationships. That's why you find smart women beating themselves up all the time. That's why you find smart women with anorexia and eating disorders and hating their body. And that's where self-love comes in. And self-love is all about the unconditional love and respect that you have for yourself. And so there's these practices and these dares that I've created is to really make it tangible, make it possible to actually start to build, I call them like your self-love muscles, right? So that you can stop that negative self-talk, so that you can stop hating yourself and start loving yourself, or stop putting yourself in bad relationships.
Yeah, because it takes courage, because then it shakes your whole world, and all the people that you have attracted so far might be reflecting actually this, the self-love is not there. So I guess by stepping up and being courageous to love ourselves, then it changes a lot, and it takes courage then to face those and have those vulnerable conversations and recreate something more powerful.
Yes, well, and it's back to the room of the girls. When I asked them all, who here would turn to their girlfriend and say, I have self-esteem, or I really like self-esteem, or I really want self-esteem, or I really have good self-esteem. Who would do that? And every girl raised their hand. Then I asked the question, well, how many of you would tune to your friend here and tell them, I really love myself? Not one hand other than mine raised. 60 young women between the ages of 18 and 24. And that's not okay. This is my mission in life, is that we create a world in which every girl and every boy is born in love with themselves and stays in love with themselves. And that every hand raises so that mothers and fathers are teaching their children, yeah, love yourself, and this is what it means, and this is and feel proud that you love yourself. But the mothers and fathers have to love themselves, and we don't all love ourselves. So I really think like we're this generation, this gap of a generation where we can shift from a world that's all about fear to a world that's about love. And self-love, think about it, self-love is the bridge.
It's the bridge, yeah. We're the bridge.
We're the bridge.
So what is the difference really when you say I'm in love with myself versus I love myself? Because you use both terms. Is that the same for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely. Again, narcissism is not about self-love. So I love myself, I'm in love with myself, whatever those things are. Of course, I mean, if we were dating and I was like, I'm in love with you, that would be okay, right? Yeah. So why wouldn't it be okay for me to be like, I'm in love with me? When I started my self-love journey, I took myself out on dates all the time. This was part of me like falling in love with myself because like I didn't really know who I was totally. So I took myself to movies and I would take myself to shows and I joined the singles club and I tried all these different things and I learned how to love being with me. And that is part of self-love. Absolutely. It's the first gate. So there's 5 gates that I've found to self-love. There's probably more, but I'm still climbing over the 5th one, so I'm not quite sure what's on the other side. But the first gate of self-love is I know myself. Yeah. I really know who I am, what I want, what my dreams are, and I've really gone in and I've healed a lot of those emotional holes. I'm no longer bleeding profusely looking for, men, women, cigarettes, shopping, chocolate, whatever to kind of stuff in to those holes. And then once you get past that gate, then you can move into gate number 2, which is what Choosing Me Before We is all about, which is I only have relationships in my life that are full and reflect unconditional love and respect. Unconditional love and respect in your relationships is not an upgrade. It's mandatory, But anyone that's probably listening right now can think of a person in their life that doesn't give them unconditional love and respect.
Sometimes it's our parents. Sometimes
it is our parents. And that's when that's the most challenging piece to actually work with. And I've had to work with that myself. And I think what I encourage people to do is to take a relationship inventory and to write down all the relationships that they have. So relatives and friends and work, and write them all down. And then next to the ones that give you unconditional love and respect, that make your life better, that make you a better person, even sometimes if they're hard, you write a heart and all those. And then you go through the ones that take from you, that take more energy, that create drama, that have toxins in them, that don't have unconditional love and respect, and you put a check mark next to those. And then the other ones are just neutral, and those are okay. So what you do, the ones, the hearts, you grow those. You grow those, you focus on them, you put more energy into them, you love them. The ones that are the neutrals, you can kind of do whatever you want with those. But the check marks, and this is challenging for people, it's a big gate to get over, you actually have to go into the relationship and either transform it or let it go. And that's scary for people. We have this belief in our society that if a relationship ends, it's a failure. That is not true. Overstaying is the failure. Not being honest about what's going on in the relationship is a failure. Letting someone be in your inner circle when they hurt you and don't give you unconditional love and respect is a failure. That's not loving yourself. So you may have a parent or an aunt or an uncle who doesn't and can't. You can't change people, right? Yeah. You just move them to the outside of the circle. You don't let them in to the inner circle. But you give them a chance. You give them a chance. You lean into the relationship. Try to shift it, try to change it, give them an opportunity, and then people will tell you and show you who they are. And when they do, believe it. Just believe it and accept it.
Yeah, that's a good point, because sometimes it's important to take them to the outer circle, not in the inner circle, because otherwise we can spend our whole life trying to forgive ourselves, work on this and this and that, when we can be spending it in very nurturing relationship. Yeah,
well, and what happens is when you have those more toxic, dramatic things in your inner circle, you're crowding up the space so those good, loving relationships can't come in. I mean, it's kind of like your clothes closet, right? In order to get new clothes, you have to pull out the old ratty stuff, So sometimes you have to go in and clean out the closet and then, move things around or give them to Goodwill or whatever. It's the same thing with your relationships. I have let go of many friendships. And I don't get all dramatic about it, like my friendships have ended, or it's hard because friendships are hard. We don't quite know how to break up with friends, but I've had to let go of them, not because I didn't love them anymore, but because our lives were going like this. And I think this is the thing that we don't really understand, and I certainly didn't understand, is that love is indestructible, right? So when you love somebody, you always love that person. That love never goes away. and often in relationships, I don't know if you've ever heard this, but I got this line, was, I love you, but I'm not in love with you. That is the worst thing. Never say that. Never say that, because it doesn't say anything. It's hurtful. Feeling like love is being taken away has to be one of the most painful experiences for human beings. But it's a lie, because you don't stop loving them. The love transforms, and what usually happens is there's all kinds of other feelings that we don't know how to express on top of it. So do I still love my ex-person? Absolutely. I love for him. I'm grateful for all the things that he's done, for being a great teacher. Do I trust him, and do I want him in my circle? No, I don't need to. It's complete. It's complete. But the love is still there.
And you burst your self-love.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is, when you take away love from somebody else, you're only really hurting yourself. That's really what you're doing.
Well, this was so awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. I have a little gift for you.
Oh, you do?
So I'm very committed to all women and men too, I guess they can wear this too, having a way to have a touchstone to really love themselves. So this is the official self-love necklace, and it's two-sided. On this side here it says me, I'm loving me, so you can wear it this way and be like, I'm loving myself today. Or you can wear it this way and be like, I'm having a secret love affair nobody knows. So just wear this. My clients call it their me bling. So may it bring you much, much love, and thank you so much for all that you're doing to spread and share love around the world.
Thank you. I feel like this is bridging again what you were saying earlier. This is bridging for more love on the planet, and so that we don't make decisions from fear, but from love from now on, because there's a lot of fearful things happening outside. So loving ourselves is definitely that big piece that needs to be taken care of before anything else.
It is, and we have the possibility to change that vibration in us from fear to love, fear to love, fear to love at any point. So
it's a constant choice, huh?
It is. Actually, this summer we're going to be doing a 40-day fear cleanse and inviting people to go on the detox from fear for 40 days, baby, and replace it with love. So I couldn't agree more with what you're saying.
Well, much love, my beautiful co-creators.
Much love.
Bye from California.